Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us this week. I am pretty excited about the topic that we're going to dive into this week, just because, well, a couple reasons. The first one is I love the folks here on this session today, but also over the last couple years, have really been able to talk to, boy, hundreds and hundreds of single or solo or founding product marketers and have heard so many things, and it's definitely not an easy role in many ways. Definitely exciting, and you get to wear a lot of different hats. And so today we're going to dive in with some of the best in the industry. But real quick, for the folks out there, my name is Jorge Soto, one of the co-founders here at AssetMule, joined by my co-founder Justin Dorfman, Jackie Crespo, and Allison Rona. And for the folks out there, definitely add your questions, comments, feedback. If you don't like my hat, this is a little outdated of a hat. I love Jackie's hat, so maybe Jackie, you might have to send me one.
Yeah, I love that. I'd love to.
All right, awesome. I'll Venmo you the shipping and the cost. But yeah, folks, go ahead and post any questions, comments, feedback throughout, and we will address those throughout today's session. So again, what is it like to be a founding solo PMM? We're going to dive into those things here today. So real quick, Jackie, why don't you kick us off? Tell us a little bit about your background.
Sure.
How did you get into this crazy world?
I'd love to. Sorry, everyone. So, my name is Jackie Crespo. Thank you so much to both Justin and George. I really am such a huge fan and love that you guys are doing this because when I started out, first of all, I didn't even know I wanted to be a product marketer. When I was both in college and in business school, product marketing, the way it was kind of talked about, wasn't something that I felt like was a fit for me. And it wasn't until after I did product operations and took some time off that I was like, where do I want to sit? And I realized that in the same way with what I studied, I loved everything interdisciplinary. I loved being in that nexus of having to understand the big business strategy, but then also getting to talk to sales, to marketing, to product, and have to have a point like, who are we targeting? Why are we targeting them? Why should anyone care? And thankfully, that evolved into understanding what I love is that product marketing, I think, owns for any product or service. Like, why is it unique? Why is it believable? Why is it compelling? And I didn't think that I was going to love being a solo PMM. It was actually thrust upon me. I was the most junior PMM at a Series C startup. And I was really lucky. We had a technical product marketing manager. We had my boss was an amazing PMM, and even the CPO, CMO had a product marketing background. Unfortunately, there was a schism at the top of leadership, and they all left on their own accord. They are all rock star product marketers, but they decided to leave, and then suddenly I went to being a solo PMM at a Series C company, and that was really a baptism by fire. I've also been a first-time product marketing manager at a bunch of AIO startups, and I can talk more about that. But yeah, I think that's kind of like the high level. I love it. I'll talk more about why. But also just wanted to say I'm really grateful to Allison because she's the one that introduced me to everyone here. And I also want to plug real quickly PMM Camp, because that is how I met Allison. Lots of good people there. If you're just getting started, or even if you're a seasoned person, check it out. So go ahead, Allison.
Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and tag PMM Camp. And thank you so much, Wing, for your comments around our hats. Really exciting. Allison, just real quick, just so folks can get acquainted with your background if they've been living under a rock the last couple of years.
I don't think anyone's living under a rock. Well, hopefully not. But thanks for that intro also, Jackie. Yeah, it's been great connecting with you. And I met Justin through the PMA community a couple of years ago, and George through all that too. So I love the product marketing community. We're so tight. It's so amazing. If you're not part of that community and reaching out to people, do it. So you'll really get a lot out of it. But anyway, a little bit about me. I come from a sales background, did the whole sales thing for a while, loved it, did the sales management thing for a while, but saw what product marketing was doing, right? I relied on my product marketing managers. I thought it looked like fun, and I wanted to go in and kind of make that bigger impact. And so that's what I did. I started off in my product marketing career at a big enterprise company. I was one of 20 product marketers, really learning, right, the craft and really kind of how to figure that out. But then made a conscious shift to go into the startup space and to really go smaller. And the first startup I was at, I was one of 2 product marketers, and then the other person left, and I became, I was kind of the solo PMM for a while. And over the course of my career, have been either on a very small team or have been a solo product marketer. And, right now I'm a fractional consultant. I have a couple of clients. Some I'm the only product marketer, on that. Other ones I'm, still a product marketer, but on a larger team. And I see, right, kind of the pros and cons, of how solo product marketing works, how bigger teams work and all that. And we can dive into all that as well. But that's enough about me. We'll pass it back to you guys.
All right, awesome. And Justin, real quick for the folks out there, even though this is usually during our office hours, right? And so hopefully folks are familiar, but real quick, you can give a little background, just because I think your background really growing from an SDR, sales leader, VP of product marketing, and then you've been a product marketing now at some really great companies, and now you're basically you're a product marketer here slash.
Oh, we might have lost George. I'll jump in and give the quick intro. Yeah, so my story, as George mentioned, I started in sales, stayed with a particular company for 10 years and had this great opportunity to grow into a sales leader, building out an SDR team, and then was given the opportunity to actually build out product marketing at the company. Didn't know much about what product marketing was, and sort of trial by fire, learned the craft and the playbook and all the different pieces of the puzzle. Then joined a hyper-growth company as the first founding solo product marketer, where I got to take that playbook that I had built by trial and error and do it at a larger scale. And then now at AssetMule, building a product that solves pain points for solo product marketers mostly. And a pain point that I experienced myself around, creating sales collateral and enabling the sales team. And yeah, as George mentioned, as a early stage founder, a lot of what I do today is product marketing, and it's understanding who our ICP is, building the positioning and messaging framework, and launching the products, enabling the sales team, which is basically George and myself in this case, which makes it a lot easier than enabling a bigger sales team as a solo product marketer. But just love this role and this journey, and excited to dive in today and share some scar tissue with everyone.
Oh,
George,
you're muted.
All right, there we go. The
Rookie
good old
mistakes.
You're on mute Zoom stuff. This is like a new thing, right? We never used to do that when we were in person. But Jackie,
really funny.
Just real quick, Jackie, how do you know that you're wired to be that founding solo PMM?
Oh, I love this question. I love it because when I was at that Series C and was getting a lot more exposure, I would get so much inbound from recruiters to be a founding PMM. And I felt like that had to be the worst position ever. I was like, no. Because in my mind, I hadn't really given it a real think of like what that would look like. All I felt was what probably a lot of junior PMMs feel, because they start as just like, it's already madness, right? It already feels like I don't have enough time. It already feels like I had a junior PMM, but like we didn't have enough of bandwidth, that folks didn't even understand our role, that there were expectations that just were totally outmatched for our size. And I said, why would I want to take an experience like that and then go to a startup where it's already chaos? You want to have chaos on chaos? Like, no, thanks. I think what changed was we started working I was at a company called HelpShift.
Yep.
The whole idea was a mobile SDK for customer support, customer service, but actually they started leveraging machine learning and even had AI, because it was not early in the AI space, but early in when most people talk about AI and AI startups. And so we got bought by a huge company. They decided to say bye-bye to the entire product marketing team. And when I was taking some time to decide what I wanted to do, I found that the only companies that were exciting to me were the early stage companies working on AI. And I was just like, I don't want anything sexy. I want boring, but boring that's actually getting something done. And I felt like the conversations that I was enjoying was with those early stage folks. So it was really a leap of faith, because at the time I was like, ooh, I still was like, oh, this could be like chaos on chaos. And when I got there, that's what I loved, because for the first time, you got to decide what product marketing looked like somewhere. It was hard, but all that hard work was decisions you were making along with the leadership to decide, like, product marketing is going to work this way. Product marketing is going to prioritize this first. And that was amazing, because I wasn't having to dig out of decisions or expectations that were set years before I'd even gotten there. And I think that was the thing that I loved the most. So I think the wiring, now that I know looking back, I would say, if you have pride of ownership and you nerd out on how hypothetically, this would be so much better if we worked this way or if we worked that way, and you like both the strategy and the tactical, but for reals, not just saying it, like you do nerd out on it, and you nerd out on even ways how you can make the tactical better. And sometimes you even are like, if I was an SDR, if I would do it this way, then like, I think you're actually going to love it. I think if you really need structure, if you like that things are already running and operating, it's kind of like this. If you want to inherit the Ferrari, do not ever take this job. If you think that you're kind of like, I don't even know the car I want to drive and I want to figure out how to build it, and it's this dream weird thing that I want to create, absolutely, I think that means you're wired for it. But I think it's totally okay if, like me, you're like, why would I ever want to do that? You kind of have to just start to realize how much you love it. And I think it's because I love the craft so much that if you get to be the master of that craft, I think that's really what got me into it.
Awesome. Allison, what about you? What do you think?
I'll piggyback on something else, on something that Jackie said, was about that extreme ownership aspect, right? And really just seeing the function as what it is, as, kind of soup to nuts, and really kind of deciding how you want it to run, right? So I know oftentimes at larger enterprise companies, product marketers have a much more narrow remit, right? They might go really deep, but just really, really small. I think I talked to somebody who worked at Amazon once, who really was just focused on, as a product marketer, was just focused on messaging for keynotes, right? Like, that is just a very unique, maybe that's just unique to Amazon, but that's just a very unique and very narrow way of looking, right, of what product marketing can do. Sure, they're focused on messaging, right, and how to get that message across, but that doesn't work, right? Like in the startup phase, you're not just working on keynotes. You're kind of doing everything, right? Yes, you have to kind of prioritize and you have to decide, right, like what you're going to do this quarter, what you're going to do next quarter, because everything is often on fire and everything can be fixed and can be worked on right now. But I think that's the fun thing, is kind of figuring out what is going to have the biggest impact right now. So that's one, right? Figuring that out, aligning, right, with kind of like the high level North Star metrics, figuring that out, how you're going to help move that, and then actually doing the work, right? So it's not all theoretical. It's not only strategic. It's not only talking about, all this stuff, but like, you're the only one that's there. So like, you have to have that ownership and that drive to really get what done, right? I don't know if we can curse on here, but like, just kind of going, all right, we'll get shit done, right?
Curse, unless LinkedIn doesn't like it, but we're cool.
So yeah, but that's just really what it is, right? If you want, I don't think, also, like, going back, being a founding or a solo product marketer is probably, like, I also wonder, like, about the stage that you're in your career, right? Like, because I've seen sometimes that, like, people want to hire a solo product marketer and they're more junior, only a couple years, into their product marketing career. But I think that's also a challenge, right? Because you're still, to your point, Jack, you're still learning the craft, right? Maybe you're not nerding out totally on it just yet and haven't figured out how to work all those relationships, versus someone who has been doing it for a little while and can kind of go dive in and just knows, right, all the things that need to be done, and just kind of goes and does it. So anyway, that's my story.
That's a really, really interesting kind of point around the junior versus tenured. And one idea that comes to mind is like, yes, all this AI stuff is also giving us capabilities. People have been like talking a lot about the sort of junior employee at companies being less important and being able to be replaced by AI agents and whatever. I don't know. I've seen some stuff. I'm not quite sure. But one thing that does come to mind that I think a lot of I've seen junior folks lack is this relationship building stuff, right? And so like the AI can't do that for you, right? Like they can't connect in the way that we did, right? And so just for the folks out there who are thinking about that, like, sure, you might be able to automate some workflows and stuff like that with agents, et cetera, but like we still need to teach those soft skills. But real quick, Justin.
No, you nailed that. Yeah, I just want to make sure that the most important thing, and I know we'll maybe get into it. Crazy how we're already halfway through, but the relationships are the biggest part in the first 30 days. And AI cannot do that for you.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, actually, Justin, I was going to ask you, what does that, like, let's say first 90 days look like? And if you want to add anything to like the characteristics real quick before you dive into the 90-day plan.
Yeah, no, I think you guys are spot on. And this does definitely align with the former question and sort of what AI can replace and not replace. But the way that I think about the first 90 days is really to get acquainted with the organization and with your counterparts across the organization, but also identify and maybe even get some of those early quick wins so that you can really put your flag down and get everybody to understand what product marketing is and how it can support. So usually what I like to do is start by talking to folks, right? Meeting with folks, building those relationships. So that in my career, it's been sales, the sales organization. It's been the product organization, the CS team, right? All these different counterparts that I'm going to be working with, the leadership team, right? And really understanding sort of the state of the business and again, trying to identify what product marketing means within that organization and what are the quick wins or the like burning fires that need to be addressed, right? And then take all that, let's say that's the first 2 weeks or so, take all that information and now define what product marketing is for that organization and what those quick wins are and present it back to those teams, right? And get their sign off, right? Oh yes, these are the priorities. Oh, it'll be amazing if product marketing could solve that for us, right? And then hit the ground running and get those quick wins. And while you're doing that, start to build some of the frameworks, right, that are going to make these processes more scalable. I wouldn't spend so much time at the very beginning trying to build all the frameworks and all the playbooks and so on, because then people are going to be like, wait, where did that product marketer go that we just hired? Like they've been living in their hole somewhere. And you want to get those quick wins so that they're like, wow, product marketing really, now I understand what it is. And now I understand the value it can provide. But while you're doing it, you're building those frameworks, right? So that as you're like thinking to scale your processes and your abilities, you can do that. So that's really sort of the way that I spend the first 90 days is, again, getting acquainted with all the counterparts, helping them understand what product marketing means and how it can help, and then hitting those quick wins and really delivering those things for them so that now they're like, oh, this is a real partner for me, right? It's not just somebody that is out there, writing words, and sort of being fancy with their words. It's somebody that actually can deliver value and help me.
And I just wanted to add real quick, this I think is more important than ever because of remote work, right? And so, and also this is not just like, hey, here's product marketing, here's what it is, let's grab a beer, or whatever, right? Let's assume you're in the same city, right? This is understanding, this takes a different level of mastery. This is understanding human dynamics and understanding this individual, this is the type of person, this is like, and this is generally like management leadership stuff that very few leaders ever actually grasp, right? Unfortunately. But that's what we're talking about here. Like, I'm a warm and fuzzy person. Like, if I don't feel connected to you as a person, Justin's smiling because he knows, and I feel disconnected and I don't feel like we are actually have a relationship and it's just transactional, I am not having fun at all, right? So I need to have emotional connection. Some other people, I know a lot of people who don't need that. They're not wired that way. And this is not talked about. This is talked about in like psychology class, right? And things, sociology, whatever, right? This is not talked about in business enough, right? And this is gonna, in my opinion, gonna really be a major factor whether you're actually gonna be able to be a sustainable team and you're gonna get churn around employees or not. So just wanted to mention that. Allison, that 90 days, what does that look like for you and your opinion?
I just want to piggyback though on George on what you were saying though, because about like kind of that warm and fuzzies, right? Like feeling, I'm totally with you there, but like your team, right? Your product, sales, CS, the rest of marketing, I mean, they are your internal customers, right? So we talk about, right, like enabling sales, right? And like for like the outside team, right? They had non-official customers, but like getting to know your partners, what, what drives them, what metrics, they're being kept to, like what their OKRs are and KPIs, right? And every other acronym, right? You really need to kind of figure that out because then you know how you're going to affect them. And Justin, while I totally agree, right? Like going forth and talking to everybody and figuring out what they think of product marketing. Sometimes if you're a founding or a new product marketer to a team, or if somebody has had another solo PMM that hasn't worked out, there may be some other misconceptions, right? About what product marketing could do for that particular org, right? I mean, you guys know, probably you'll have to talk to sales and they'll just say, oh yeah, we need a bunch of one-pagers, right? We need you guys to create some sales collateral for us, right? And while obviously, product marketing is there to do that, and you can do some quick wins, right, for that. It's like, how else, let's go kind of beyond that surface. And when you have somebody who, to Jackie's point earlier, has nerded out on the craft, right, and kind of knows what good product marketing is, then we can come to the rest of the org, not only get their, thoughts on what product marketing can do, but we can also drive that, right? So I'm a big fan of, yes, taking what they say, adding obviously my own spin on it. And then I know there's been talk, then kind of creating this product marketing charter, right? Like, what is product marketing to this organization, and sharing that either on a team by team basis, right? Going to the sales team, right? And sharing it on that, or at an all hands meeting, right? Sharing it there, and how I can, how we drive things around and how we support and partner with all these other teams to help the company, right, hit their goals and hit their metrics. And I think you can do that, yes, by having that warm fuzzies with each team, really understanding their drivers, really understanding what their quotas are, what they're being measured on, right? And then kind of like we're all working together to hit those goals. So, and sharing that. So that's like, before even any processes or anything, even we're not even talking about that yet, right? It's that relationship stuff. It's so funny because I know it's really hard to like find when you're interviewing people, right? I know a lot of people are out on the job market and you're kind of looking, and there are employers who are looking at, hiring founding or solo PMMs, and you look at a lot of the hard skills for sure. But then those soft skills, how you build those relationships and how you connect with those teams, are just as important as, some of the, your messaging and your launch planning and all the other, technically hard skill stuff. And it's something that's really hard to train for. I'm sure it's hard, to interview for, right? To talk through and to really gauge. But I have to say that is what keeps, the teams moving and running smoothly. So.
And I just want to add two things to everything. I agree with everything everyone said. Well, like we said, you got to connect with folks. You have to think about the ways that you can have the early wins. Everything Allison said, absolutely. The one thing that I would say that actually the folks like Allison have really helped me and others is that we have a tendency to overvalue expertise. So you want to go in there and you feel like you got to show something first. You feel like you got to go in guns blazing or have a point of view. And I'm actually going to say, resist that urge, really, and go in with questions. This is the time you're going to be able to ask questions. And honestly, if you're forthright and thoughtful about these questions, that's one way you actually build trust, even though our brain is like, show how awesome and smart you are and all the things you can do, make promises immediately. Like, no. A mentor of mine, Natalie Louis, who I'm also working on something with, which I'll tell everyone at a different juncture. She actually has my favorite 3699, but there are tons out there. So definitely check them out. And I think the best ones are the ones that those first 30 days are about discovery. Discovery. Because here's the flip side, the chaos side of being at a startup. You are going to be mind blown that you could talk to the head of engineering, the head of sales, the head of product, and the CEO, and they may actually not be aligned on the ICP, the actual core persona, your biggest competitors. It is wild. And also a question I like to ask is, why did you join? No, but truly, now that I've signed on the dotted line, why did you join? How would you describe the work? I think that's also crazy, because that's where you're going to see the immediate misalignment and where you may be able to add value. Because if you're not agreeing on those core things, which I have seen, that's going to be where you can add immediate value in that 90% discovery, 10% execution. So just wanted to add that.
Well, we're getting plus ups or thumbs ups and around some of the comments. Joan says it's all about relationships. I know Joan's profile's not coming through. It's the I think it's the LinkedIn API, Joan, but absolutely, as you can tell, we really love that discovery, right? So doing the discovery internally is so important, not only helping with also us being able to understand discovery externally. One thing that really stood out too, that Allison, you said, which I had historically thought about as a customer facing thing as a salesperson, which was like, I need to understand the OKR / whatever goals, whatever acronym of the prospect, right? But I need to do that internally as well. Because not everyone is warm and fuzzy and will just like to work with you just because, they like hugs like me, but they're like, really goal oriented and focused, so just wanted to highlight there that piece. Justin, from your experience, do you have any sort of like specific process or doc or framework that you always use? I know the answer to this working with you. You're a framework genius here, but anything that you wanted to share with the folks out there?
Yeah, I think one thing that I do very early on, and it's after I've had that time to talk to everybody, really understand what those priorities are across the team, what the OKRs are for the other teams, is setting my own definition of what product marketing is. Allison called it kind of the product marketing charter, but also what the immediate OKRs will be for the next quarter or let's say half year, right? Because one thing that is a big trap for a founding or solo PMM is getting pulled in all kinds of directions and becoming that tactical order taker where you're just saying yes to everything. And what you need to be able to do is to be able to say no to a lot of things and say yes to the right things. And I think that comes out of setting the foundation of, from these conversations, from the discovery, these are the 3 to 5 things that really are going to make the biggest impact for these various different stakeholders within the organization. These are the key activities that we're going to do in order to impact those things. And that's what the charter is going to be for the next 3 to 6 months. And anything outside of that is going to be a no, if it's going to replace one of these things, right, that you said was important before. And that's something that's really important, is you're going to have to anchor to that, right, and stick to it if you want to avoid that trap of getting pulled in all different directions.
Awesome.
Yeah. Sorry, I was going to just add to something. Yeah, Justin, I think it's right. As a solo PMM, there's always like, you set the tone, right, for your, quarter by quarter, but something's going to come up, right? And someone's going to ask about, or have an idea or want to shift things. And I think what you said is so important. It's like, well, if you have to you want to add something to it, that's fine, but you got to take something else away, right? Like, and help reprioritize everything. And sometimes that's okay. And sometimes, right, like it's not. But I think being vocal about it and sharing, like, yeah, we can totally do this and shift gears, but just know that we all agreed that X was important and now we can't do X, right? Because we're moving to Y.
And in terms of the psychology, this is where it's a fundamental switch, because when you were at that bigger company with bigger egos potentially and more going, you kind of presented the portfolio that you had and you said, okay, if you want that, what would you like me to replace? That was kind of like the grown-up way to do it. At the startup, you're going to have to be more vocal to say, okay, like Allison said, this is what we agreed to. Now we're saying this new thing is important. Then I suggest we drop this for these reasons. Like, you need to be already prepared, because sometimes the leadership will be looking to you to say why. And if you don't have a strong opinion or a reason why, you're going to have trouble. And I think that's the part where it's a little bit more of a dance. And our friend Adam O'Brien talks about this, that sometimes there's a lot of scars from those dances / fights that you kind of have to take ownership of, like, this is why I think we should be doing this versus that. And I think you have to be aware of it, but it's worth it, because just letting everyone pull you in different directions like Gumby is not going to work well for you.
Well, then you get those, like, what we call those random acts of marketing, right? And you're just pulled and you just are doing something. Somebody in the organization has an idea, right? And now everything, it's like, stop what we're doing and let's execute on that idea. And while a lot of those ideas are fun and good and creative, right? It just means that we're again, like, that we're shifting priorities. And I think in a perfect world, we would all, like, allocate maybe 10 or 15% of our time to these, kind of other projects or something that comes up, right? But in reality, there's always so much to do that it seems like that it's really hard to kind of block that time off. So but yeah, creating that roadshow, that charter, whatever it's called, saying this is what I'm working on, right, for the next quarter, let's all get alignment on it and know that anything else will come after that is great.
I love that, Justin. Where have you been my whole life? I wish I would have been more tactical and strategic with that and having that, because I think that's a big regret, is that this isn't easy, folks. I just want you to know, we're saying, like, just do this, it's going to be awesome. No, I think the big thing, and especially this is going to be hopefully a little easier for the senior PMMs thanks to AI, is you got to, like, remind yourself, you're working these crazy hours in startup. You have to save that 20% of time for the strategic, for the longer term, because if you don't, the tactical is important, right? You need those quick wins. Like Adam says, that's how you stay relevant. But the 20% is why you become, like, inherent and, like, truly important to the organization. And I have failed on that. We're just like, you let yourself be pulled in so many directions, you lose sight of the strategic. And then the tactical isn't enough. You can't keep up with everyone's demands.
Yeah. I actually had a question about that balance between strategy and execution. I think we've spoken to that. I know that's not an easy sort of thing, right? Because you got to get stuff done. You got to hit the nail into the wood and build, but also you got to plan. You got to architect what you're building. So not an easy thing. Justin, in terms of kind of ways that you've been able to use AI, everyone's favorite topic now, in your day-to-day to do more than less. And I think that we're all talking about this, like, everybody is trying to figure it out, right? Whether it looks like agentic or prompts or, Claude, ChatGPT, etc. Any sort of feedback that you would give?
Yeah, I'm using it more and more, which is really interesting, and for more and more use cases. But I would say the primary ways is initial drafts of content, right? And actually, one step even before that is ideation of content, right? So I use it a lot as a thought partner to ideate on content that should be created around a launch or around a new or like a ongoing product update sort of newsletter or things like that. I then do use it pretty heavily to create that initial draft and even to iterate on that draft, right? Again, whether it be like a blog post or even a website copy and so on. And I think that to me saves an enormous amount of time. Again, the ideation goes from maybe like an hour to a couple of minutes. The creation goes from hours to less than an hour. I use it a lot for research as well. Again, instead of having, a great example is when you're doing competitive research, instead of having to go to, create one of those matrices on a spreadsheet and go to everybody's website and fill in all the cells, now you can actually, just interface with your AI chatbot and get that sort of all pulled in front of you, right? Which goes, again, from hours to minutes. And the last thing that I'll say that I'm testing out, this is a little bit, there's like a little bit of an asterisk here that you can't do this by itself. You still have to talk to a lot of customers, but I'm actually exploring creating AI personas and actually using that for a first degree of research. So what I mean by that is I have all these transcripts of my ICP, my persona that I've talked to. I've fed it into ChatGPT and created a persona. And I just need those quick answers. What do you think about this value prop? Or what do you think about this, ROI stat, right? Running it by the AI, again, which is like now the brain of all these different customers that I've talked to get a first degree of validation is really, really interesting. Again, the asterisk here is you still need to talk to customers and you still need to validate it beyond that. But it's really amazing as a tool to just get that quick sort of validation for something that's maybe not super important or that needs an immediate answer. So those are some of the ways that I've been using AI.
Allison, how about yourself?
Yeah, I've done some of the similar things, that Justin has done. And I think it will be really interesting. What I haven't done yet, and I will just say what I think, to your point, Justin, about creating those personas and helping that through, your calls and your transcripts and all that. But how do we set it up to regularly update, right? Because, right, in setting up those APIs or whatever it is so that that persona stays up to date. Because the problem is, right, if I load, right, all that info for the last, 3-6 months, then what, right? And then the market's shifting, things are changing, right? And if you're still relying on that AI persona, they're using outdated information, right? So how do we do that? And that's personally something that I want to stay on top of and want to be able to just explore a little more, right? And do that. I've used AI to do win-loss analysis, looking at calls, right? I've used within Gong, for instance, use their own AI to kind of ask questions about over an account, like why an account won, right? And then really using ChatGPT to really find trends and all that. So taking all that data, moving that to ChatGPT and asking to see the trends, whether it's a certain competitor has come up, more frequently, or certain features against certain competitors, right? ChatGPT can really find those, connect those dots. I do have to say that ChatGPT has also hallucinated a lot, with all that. So there are caveats there that, that I want to use it for all of those types of things and to make me go faster. But seeing enough of the hallucinations has made me slow down. So, a little bit with it. And I really want to make sure that I'm not, because the first time I did that, this was an error on my part, is that I trusted ChatGPT's output and I didn't validate it enough before sharing that feedback with the rest of my team. And then I realized there was then they brought up a question. I was like, oh shoot, right? So that's on me. And that's the early AI mistakes that we're, all making, right? So yeah, it's something, all that stuff that I want to be able to do now.
Jackie, how about yourself? Any cool tools?
Oh yeah. So I don't want, I'm not going to use the company's name because now there's lots of competitors and I want people to have open minds, but there are tools out there that are basically, thanks to the APIs, thanks to the work of the product team, they're like Excel spreadsheets on steroids, where now the AI is in each cell. And I think this is powerful because there are some companies you might join that are not the golden, the golden like situation of being in a vertical SaaS company. You may be in a horizontal SaaS company, and there may not be really a realization of what the true ICP is. And so that's where I really got to put in, our 900 customers and start learning everything I possibly could on it. Things that in the past you could pay 30, 40, 50 grand to data providers and you were still stuck with the data they were collecting. I think Kellen K-Spear says this very well, that now you with AI, you can productionize, you can actually codify the data that you want to create. So you can have it now be like, no, I want you to go to every one of their homepages and give me like, what is their anchor text, and analyze that. I want you to validate and go and tell me what case studies do they actually have. And this is your actual customers. Who's their true ICP? Who's their true persona? You're getting a level of depth that then you can actually, like I think Allison said, like forecast or have better information that before you would have never had that time. You could have had all these awesome interns. You just wouldn't have been able to get to that level of depth. So one, I love that. And that's only become even more powerful and thankfully cheaper now that there's more competitors offering those services. The second, hey, I'm going to be totally honest. I feel like in many ways, I am super obsessed with getting things right, but it creates sometimes a little bit of a struggle to get started. So alleviating the blank page problem for me has been huge because honestly, usually most of the things that they came out with, I guess I have a really high thought of myself and my work was crap. But it already got started. And then I was like, okay, oh my God, I hate this. And it's a lot easier to it's like design, right? Like you come to the person with the 2-minute design and they're like, oh, I hate this. Actually, I want this. But when you ask them with the blank slate, they didn't really know what they wanted. Sometimes I just do that with myself. So what Justin said, as a collaborator, as a brainstormer, I use it a lot. I think the last thing is I've been blown away by how much it's improved on research. I was so annoyed and pissed a year ago. I remember this because I was still in my new job search and I was asking questions and I was being pretty specific. And I was like, I'm looking for a startup that's using AI in the Bay Area. And it's like, Zoom is a company you might be able to be. And I'm like, Zoom is not a start. What? No. To like then 6 months later, getting better at it, to now the deep research you can do on Perplexity, ChatGPT. I haven't played with it in Claude, but it's something I'd like to do. Amazing what the research could do. But again, like Allison said, chatters, I have names for them. Chatters and Lexi can hallucinate. And so you really need to make sure to like go to the resources, double check that they're doing the right thing. So I think those are my top 3 use cases.
You said something though about like AI type and using it on Excel spreadsheets. And I will say like, now you never have to like memorize and know how to use some of those Excel functions anymore, right? Although I haven't tried using it yet, right? Like it can create a pivot table, right? Like that now within Google Sheets. And every time I've had to use VLOOKUP, right? Over the last 5+ years, I've always had to go to YouTube to remind myself on how to do that, right? And now if I don't have to do that anymore, right? That's pretty amazing because not to remember all that.
Everyone had a caveat, and I will offer a caveat, and I think this is something that I've been personally burned on, and it's hard to explain. I think there are a lot of folks who don't understand marketing, product marketing, and think that, well, if the AI gets us 80% there, just like ship it. Stop collaborating, over collaborating. I was told I was over collaborating. Never been told that in my entire life till AI came around. And here's the thing, though. AI has created a Precambrian explosion of competition. If everyone is using the same tool and everyone is thinking that 80% is good, it will be only a short amount of time between your messaging and your competitor's messaging being indistinguishable. And if that's the case, you failed. You failed. You have to still be, again, unique, believable, compelling. Why is it unique? What is different about it? It can only be a few things, but the AI won't do that for you. And everything will feel good. You'll be like, this is so easy. We're throwing so many things out. And then number 2, if you have a line in the sand for your stakeholders and for your customers, that if product right now, and we're seeing it already, people talking about it, if product is launching features too quickly, that you are not being told that they're happening, if customer success is not being enabled, if the sales team is not being enabled, and they're being surprised, there is a limit by which the average consumer, even the average enterprise or startup consumer, can kind of like assimilate new features. And even though you might think more is good, no, it's not good. They need to be done in a way where they understand what they're getting. So that's another thing on how AI can actually be tough for a product marketer, because there's a reason why we did things a certain way and we enabled our customers. And lo and behold, customers are getting upset with companies that are launching too many things without the information that they need to be able to properly adopt. And why this matters is you might get a lot of customers at the beginning, but at the end of the day, we all know retention is the silent killer. And if people aren't happy,
yep,
and if you can't even keep them around because their competitors seem indistinguishable and they're charging a little less,
yeah,
you put yourself in that situation, and that was thanks to AI. So that's my caveat and kind of like my juxtaposition on how it can be amazing, but also can really hurt a lot of companies.
Awesome. Allison, Jackie, Justin, thank you so much for joining. I know there's so many topics. We could probably talk for hours here, but real quick, Allison, if folks wanted to get in contact with you, maybe work with you, what are the best channels or URLs to reach you?
Yeah, I'm here on LinkedIn. I love connecting with other product marketers. In fact, I might find myself, I DM also some other product marketers just to have coffee chats, just to catch up. I'm really a big fan of doing that. So, reach out to me, DM me if you have any questions or want to work together. Let's go.
Let's do it. Awesome. Jackie, how about yourself? I know you're working on some new projects.
Ditto. Yeah, ditto. I mean, really, LinkedIn. I mean, yeah, I think it's the most boring thing ever. So that's why I didn't want to talk about it with people, because everyone's like, pricing. Love pricing. Always been a big pricing person. I feel like AI is making the already necessary need for better pricing, especially in enterprise tools, to be even more important. It's pretty basic, right? Supply and demand. You have 10 times the number of competitors. And then from a psychology perspective, like I said, everyone wants to differentiate. It's only a matter of time until one of your competitors, especially for the incumbents, decides to differentiate on price, and then you might be in trouble. So if people want to nerd out on it, people want help on it, love pricing. I think that's the lane I'm going to be becoming more specific on in case people want to reach out.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much to all the folks who I see were tuning in. Joan, Brian, Wynn, just all the folks who are commenting. Please get in contact with Allison and Jackie. At least follow them on LinkedIn. They're always sharing great insights. Thank you so much to my co-founder, Justin Dorfman, as well for tuning in. If you're not an AssetMule customer, definitely check it out. It's free to use if you'd like. If you don't, that's okay too.
I wish I had it when I was, yeah.
Well, we have some really exciting stuff, new products that we're launching in the short term. So definitely keep an eye out for those. And without further ado, have a wonderful, wonderful day, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, George.